Today we're going to be talking about Jigsaw and Suburbicon, so stay tuned. Welcome to The Real Review, sponsored by Parametric and Lazy Ape Studios, where you get some of the latest happenings, real thoughts, and perspectives in the world of film and television. And I'm here with Matt. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Hey.
It's so good.
I gotcha.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, you like it? Yeah. Little Stranger Things there for you guys.
Yep.
We're going to be talking about that one.
It's a true story.
Talk. Yeah.
I'm here with Joel Burbicon. Hey, Cunningham.
Burbicon.
Joel Burbicon.
Joel Burbicon. That works, yeah.
Joel Burbicon.
Joel Burbicon. I don't know what the con added to Suburbicon actually adds to the name. It makes it sound official, I guess. I don't know what it means.
I don't even know.
Yeah. But we're going to be talking about that movie, Suburbicon.
Yes, true story.
A little bit. I said Suburbicon. So, So welcome to the podcast, everybody. Here on the podcast, this is Matt. I'm Joel. We do a little bit of a breakdown where Matt's kind of more of a fan type perspective. I tend to be more of a kind of critical type perspective.
Sure.
But we meet in the middle and we give you what we consider to be a real thought and a real perspective of film. So Matt, why don't you give our listeners and our watchers here on the vidcast a couple awesome ways that they can get connected?
Yes.
Up to go. And I'm going to drink my coffee in the
drink
meantime.
that thing. Drink that thing good.
It's very tasty.
So you can get connected with us on our social media platforms. That's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all at Real Review Media. Facebook is /Real Review Media. And then you can find us on our website, realreviewmedia.com. Email us, realreviewmedia@gmail.com, YouTube, /The Real Review. So that's how you can do that. It's all kind of really great stuff, and we're posting stuff as much as we can. And it's been a crazy week as far as stuff that we've had to do.
Yeah, to jump around to get here to do the podcast and everything.
Yeah.
I gave you, you're not drinking your Capri Sun.
I haven't had one of these since I was like 7, so
you should have started to try and open it now, so that way by the end of the podcast you can actually have it open and be drinking it. That was my big problem with those when I was a kid. I could never get them open.
Yeah, well,
I don't know if you had that problem.
I don't know. I don't know if I can do this right now. We'll see. We'll see.
Right,
we'll see how the show goes.
Sounds good. So, all right. So we got the two movies. We got Jigsaw and Suburbicon, both of which just came out. Matt, why don't you lead things off, take things away from us, for us.
Yeah.
With Jigsaw.
Let's do this thing. So, Jigsaw. Basically, synopsis, bodies are turning up around the city, each having met a uniquely gruesome demise. As the investigation proceeds, evidence points to one suspect, John Kramer, the man known as Jigsaw, who has been dead for 10 years. This is directed by the Spierig brothers, Michael and Peter, and has a bunch of people I don't really know other than Tobin Bell, who's kind of the main guy. And then also Matt Passmore, Callum, Keith, Renee, some of the main people in there.
Yep.
But I saw this. You did not. Have you seen
the review?
How many?
I've seen the first 5.
Really?
Which sounds ridiculous to even say, but it's like I've seen the first 5 of 8. You know, is there 7 or 8?
This is the 8th.
This is the 8th.
Jigsaw's the 8th one.
Because it went 6, and then it went
final chapter,
which is like 3D. The 3D version?
Yeah, Saw 3D final chapter.
3D. Yeah.
So,
which is not the actual final chapter.
Right, exactly. So this is the attempt in kind of a way to it's been 7 years since they released the Saw movie. To reinvigorate the franchise. You can kind of tell that's probably what they're trying to do. They want to try and claim Halloween again as like the Saw time of the year.
Yep.
I will say that this movie was not great, or even like on a scale of good is really being really good.
Yeah.
But it was definitely passable and one of the better of the franchise.
Mm-hmm. You don't have to do it now, but I would love to hear kind of where you rate it on the scale of 1 to 7 of all the other ones.
Well, hands down, first and second are my favorite in that order.
Gotcha.
First and then second.
I would agree with that too.
Yeah. In addition to that, what's good about this is every Saw movie has some sort of twist that they're kind of hold back from you on until the very end.
Right. They're known for that.
And then they explain it all. This one looked as if they were going to give you, I'm not going to spoil anything here, and I don't even want to get into spoilers, but this one actually gives you 2 big potential twists. One of them is kind of a pull a rug out from under you type thing, where they're setting it up for something that I thought was going to be really, really fascinating.
Yeah.
And how they were going to pull it off.
Yeah. I think I know what you're talking about.
And I was like, how are they going to do this? I was like, this is really crazy to me. And at the end, they're like, oh, just kidding. We were just kind of messing around here, but here's the real twist.
Yeah.
And it was okay.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really break the mythology. It doesn't ruin the Saw canon, if you will.
Right, which is such a confused mess.
I know.
That was one of the problems after the fifth movie. One of the things I loved about him was those twists, but it told a pretty complex narrative.
Right.
And at first I just thought, when I was watching them, I'm sorry, I'm sidetracking, but I maybe I'm just not doing well with like following the story. Maybe I'm just not paying enough attention.
Yeah.
But then when I started to like read synopses and things like that, I was like, no, these are just really poorly constructed a lot of the time. They're just trying to wedge things in places.
Right. And so that's what they do. So they wedge things in places, but they do it even if it kind of makes a story overall like muddled, but they still fit in the congruency in the timeline of
I believe
what's
the
happening.
technical term for muddled in film is called weak sauce.
Right.
I believe that's the technical term.
It's in Webster's.
Yes.
So
under sauce, comma
yeah,
weak.
as far as that's concerned, the twist was kind of cool. I enjoyed it. They kept me guessing. This movie is less of a horror movie, and I think a lot of the Saw films haven't really been like a horror film. There are horrific elements, yes, but it's not like you're scared. There are things where you're definitely watching and you're like
very squeamish about. Yeah,
and even on that front, it's not incredibly. I should say this. It's graphic a few times, but it's not over the top every time like the last few Saws have been.
Yeah, less than the last few?
Yes.
Because that's kind of where they moved into.
There's one scene at the very end that I was like, oh, that's really graphic. But for the most part, it's... I was surprised they even cut away a couple of times. I was like, oh, they didn't even show that.
That's kind of what they're known for.
Right, but then there's maybe one or two times where I was like, oh, that's really brutal. But... for the most part, I like the way that this one was filmed as well. It doesn't have the one thing that I like about this movie is it doesn't have the traditional Saw like hyper fast like spinning around the person and the people shaking and like screaming in the background. Yeah, so the music is there,
and they do that weird like slow shutter thing where the guys like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The music is still there, but none of those film techniques are there. So it gives the movie a different feel.
Yeah.
Which I liked. It wasn't like frantic, and I didn't care for the.
I didn't like that either when the original was, because it always felt like they were rushing through the actual story just to get back to the torture stuff.
Right. So
and I was like, well, that's what makes it interesting to me, is finding out why and how.
So I liked those elements of it. It had definitely a better movie feel about it. I liked the kind of the story twists at the end. I thought that was kind of cool. Biggest letdowns for me was the first twist that I thought was happening. I thought they were going to go there. They didn't go there. The second thing was I didn't really care about any of the characters with the exception of maybe one.
Yeah.
And I feel like and me being the emotional one, I have to connect with somebody for it to be really, emotional. And this just wasn't that kind of a thing.
You could at least say that the first two movies in particular, there are people, like in the second movie, the kid, I forget his name.
Yeah, and Donnie Wahlberg's character too.
Yeah, you're really connecting with people that are kind of going through these ordeals, and that's what makes it, in a way, like you can't look away, because you want to know what's going to happen to these poor people.
Right.
So, yeah, I totally agree, which they never followed up with happened with that kid, right?
No.
Spoilers.
So, yeah, so spoiler, if you haven't seen Saws 1 through 3, they actually kill the dad off in the third one, I think in the third or fourth one, I can't remember.
Fourth, actually.
Yeah,
because the third's all stupid.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry,
and
the
then
fourth one
is redemptive for the third.
Right.
Sort of.
So he ends up getting, ends up getting caught in the same room.
Right, but they never find out what happens to his son. Like,
we don't hear about that.
You would think, and this is just going with the whole canon of how Saw films work, that he would end up being one of Jigsaw's like helpers at some point. I wouldn't be surprised if they pulled him back in. And you're like, who is he?
Well,
and then they show you a photo of him in the safe, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be crazy.
Yeah.
But as far as this movie is concerned, it's not great or relatively like good. It's okay. In terms of the Saw franchise, I'd probably go 1, 2. So first one, hands down, like above the rest. Second, and then maybe 6. It's right now. It's 6 or Jigsaw are my tied for third spot.
Okay.
But other than that, I mean, if I had to rate it, I'd probably give it a 71, 72, so C-.
Are you interested in them continuing the show, the series,
The
not
series,
show. Practically a show.
I could be fine without it. I thought it was okay, but if they would have gone with the first twist, I would have been like, yes,
right.
I want to see more of these, you know. But
and I know the twist you're talking about.
Yeah,
I'm not talking about it.
Let's not talk about it. But
I get what you're
if
saying.
you go see it, there's something that they tease about halfway through the movie, and they kind of let it linger and hang on for a while, and then they're like, just kidding. So, but yeah, it's C minus, which isn't terrible. It's okay.
Yeah. Acting wise,
acting was mediocre. I felt like it was better than the last few, though.
Yeah.
They definitely got some better. There's one scene that bothered me in the trailer. It's when the little Billy the puppet comes riding out on the bicycle, and then one guy is like, "Oh yeah, that's not creepy at all," and does this weird like head thing.
Yeah.
And it's in the movie, and that's the only part I didn't like in the trailer, and the only part I didn't like in the movie. It's just it was goofy. I thought that was a goofy. He's like, "Oh, that's not creepy at all."
Trying to add a little levity.
Yeah,
is kind of what I thought. Maybe
it wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
It didn't make me like that character anymore.
So the big thing that I would also say that you get from these films when you watch them is like this idea of terror. Everybody's being terrorized, and you're on that ride. Did you feel like that's really what they were embracing with the tone? Was it more toned in a different direction?
Yeah, it wasn't.
Cut away a lot.
It was more intense, and it wasn't more intense. It was just an intense movie. It wasn't a lot of horror. There was some elements towards the end, like I said, where there might be, the only horror elements I really feel like are when and this is in the old Saw movies too, other than the gore, is like when the pig mask person is hiding somewhere and they pop out or they're about ready to. That's traditional like
jump
horror,
scare
jumpy stuff.
Yeah.
It's not like that. It's definitely gruesome in some spots, but not to the degree in which the previous movies were.
Okay.
But yeah, that's kind of my. If you're a fan of Saw, if you've seen the other 7 films, go see it because you'll probably like it. I mean, you've held on for this long. Why not?
So you're telling our fans to go see Saw.
Seesaw.
Go Seesaw.
Seesaw. No, only Seesaw if that's kind of your jam. If it's not, then don't. If you've never seen a Saw movie, don't start with this. What's the first one?
That would be so confusing.
That would be really confusing.
I would actually be interested to find out if anybody, any watchers, any listeners have done that. They just went and saw the Jigsaw one.
That'd be so weird. Yeah, let me know if you've done that before and you just jumped in like halfway through, and you started with Saw 5 or something.
Yeah,
and then you're like, what?
Well, like when I went and saw Blade Runner, we went with somebody that didn't see the first Blade Runner, and they were like, meh, like they didn't. Right. They didn't feel like it made that big a difference.
It as much. Yeah.
I think it depends on the film, but this one is definitely one that you would probably have wanted to see the ones prior.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So, any other thoughts?
No, that's it. That's what I got for that one.
Cool. Well, then we'll move on.
Let's move on.
We'll go to our next film, which is a film called Suburbicon.
Joel Burbicon.
Joel Burbicon, yes. Synopsis for this is Suburbicon is a peaceful, idyllic suburban community with affordable homes and manicured lawns. The perfect place to raise a family. In the summer of 1959, the Lodge family is doing just that. But the tranquil service masks a disturbing reality as husband and father, Gardner Lodge, must navigate the town's, I don't know if I said lodge or lounge. I don't know.
It's okay. Longitudinal.
You're not going to need to know. That's all I'm going to say. Yeah. Gardner Lodge must navigate the town's dark underbelly of betrayal, deceit, and violence. This tale of very flawed people making very bad choices. This is Suburbicon, directed by George Clooney, written by Ethan Coen, Joel Coen, Grant Heslov, George Clooney. Stars a number of folks. Biggest names, Matt Damon as Gardner Lodge, Julianne Moore as Margaret, as well as his wife, who's in it very briefly at the beginning. So she actually plays a twin. Okay. Oscar Isaac as Roger, Gary Bessaraba as Uncle Mitch, Jack Conley as Hightower, Glenn Fleshler as Ira, and I forget the little kid's name, Noah Jupe as Nikki.
Jupe.
Or Jupe. I don't know. Whatever.
Okay, one of those.
Yeah. Again, it's not going to matter.
It's all good.
So this film is written as a satire. If you're familiar, you're probably pretty familiar with the Coen style.
Does it feel
writing?
Does it feel more Coen or does it feel more Clooney?
It felt like that was so. I didn't enjoy this movie, and it's getting a lot of flack right now. It felt like the main reason that I'm assuming for that is it felt like a Coen movie with the heart taken out of it and turned into a sort of a confused mess. Okay, you're not really left knowing or understanding any reason for why anybody does anything in this movie except for maybe Nicky, who's in the film. He's Matt Damon's son. Okay. But for the most part, he's just kind of in a survival mode throughout most of this movie. And it does this weird mashup, which I think the Coen brothers can do so well. Like they didn't know, sorry, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Yeah.
Where it's this kind of hodgepodge of culture, but in sort of I don't know how you would call it, sensationalized version of culture. They look at it very realistically, but it's kind of like heightened.
Okay.
You know, the humor in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou is like the scene where what's his name turns into the frog.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or them showing up at a radio show and just singing into a can and turning it into a hit. It's like this heightened sense. Like these things are obviously more, I mean, it's supposed to be this kind of like almost epic journey that they go on. But that's kind of what the Coen brothers are known for. They have these amazing sort of set pieces, and they take these very interesting characters and they have them progress through this journey of sorts, through this very interesting and very stylistically well shot cinematography and film. And it felt like there was a shadow of some of that stuff.
Okay.
The characters felt almost Coen-esque, almost like the caricatures of sorts that the Coen films often have.
Yeah.
But they didn't really feel like they were a strong enough version of that. It felt like they were like on a scale of 1 to 10 of like, you know, this character is going to be this way. They were like a 6 of that. And so it made for this very like blah kind of feel.
Blah.
Which I don't say that lightly. I don't say my blahs lightly. So I didn't enjoy it on that sense. And then I was getting to another point, which is they did this thing which Coen, like in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, they kind of mix in racial aspects because of the time, you know, the slavery was an aspect and stuff. I don't know if slavery was still, I think it was.
I don't know
if it still was, but there was definitely still a lot of segregation and the way that people are treating stuff. You know, KKK was part of the film, but the way that they wedge it into the story isn't like they're trying to have this like strong in your face, like, look at this horrible stuff. It's almost like a byproduct of, we're just going to show you the way culture is. And this film didn't do that very well. There was this, I'm going to spoil some aspects here.
Okay, just give a spoiler warning, then we're spoiling this movie, guys.
Flat out,
it's 25% on Rotten Tomatoes. If you want to go see it, go check it out. Have a great day.
Yeah, I don't think, you might want to just listen so you don't waste your time is what I'm going to say. But yeah, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 spoilers. So there's these two plots that are going on. You have Matt Damon's character who's going through this, I don't know what you would call it, a deceptive journey where he kind of sets up his relationship with his wife to get her kind of nixed and done away with. And that happens within the first 5 minutes of the film. And you're supposed to kind of look at the kid then as this vehicle, but it jumps outside of the kid's Nicky, out of his perspective. So often you don't know like whose real perspective, because you're kind of thinking it's Matt Damon's character, but then Matt Damon actually ends up being an antagonist, kind of a bad character. And so you're like, who am I supposed to connect with? And then on the side of that, there's this Suburbicon. It's this 1950s, you know, suburb where this like idyllic lifestyle is kind of portrayed.
Yeah.
And this black family moves into the neighborhood, and like immediately everybody starts responding very like negatively and very attackingly. You know, they're harassing them. They're not letting them buy groceries.
I remember
playing music outside.
When this was being screened in early screenings. It was like the thing where it's being it's like culturally and socially relevant to what's happening,
right?
With
but
some stuff.
The problem with it is that it was so juxtaposed. It didn't blend at all with what was happening with the story. With the only reason that those two stories connect is because Nicky becomes friends with the kid of the black family that are neighbors to, and that's like the only connection point. There's like some minor reasons for why that violence, because it ends up breaking up into, you know, violence around the house and stuff. That just helps to prevent anything from getting caught over at Nicky's house.
Right.
But other than that, there's like no point to it. And that's the thing that I love so much about the Coen brothers. It's like they can have a message or a tone, or they can show you sort of the bad sides, the underbelly, the negative things of a culture of a time, but without like rubbing in your face and going, look how bad this is. Yeah. And it just felt like it was like so rubbing it in my face. And that'll appeal to some people. Like if you want a film that's just about that type of cultural issue, then that's going to be your thing. But I like a little bit more subtletiness.
Yeah.
I like hinting towards something and just telling a story, and then letting me understand, like through the characters and the narratives and the way things are shot, what it is that I'm supposed to be taking from the film. You know? Yeah. So I don't know. It's the difference for me between high art and low art in that sense. And I felt like they took a Coen film that was probably more of like a high art type thing with more thematic stuff, with stronger characters, with a better sense of set pieces, and then turned that into, they remove stuff and turn it into sort of like a low art type thing. Very soft, very blah. It's like everything in the movie just was like, meh. I think I giggled like once or twice. You kind of see where everything is going. Like immediately you see, okay, well that person's that and this person's this and that's going to happen. There was a couple moments, like 1 or 2 moments where things were a little bit unexpected, but not in the sense that it really left me wondering like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen here? It was more just like, I don't know what they're doing right now. Oh, okay, that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, I mean, acting was for the most part fine.
Okay.
The other thing was I was not prepared at all for the whole social commentary angle because when I watched the trailers, like I don't know if you watched the trailers, it kind of portrayed it as like this kind of dark comedy.
Yeah, I didn't see anything like that in the trailers. Maybe.
And it was much more dark than it was comedy. I think I laughed maybe twice. One of them was just like, so Matt Damon's character ends up, because it's hard to explain, but
was it better than Hail Caesar? I didn't like Hail Caesar, in case you didn't know that.
Yeah, no.
You didn't like it either, right?
I didn't like it either. Yeah. I would say Hail Caesar was interesting more.
Okay.
Because it was showing some stuff that I was like, oh, well, that's new. That's kind of different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the dance numbers and the songs and stuff.
Yeah.
It was like, it was making an attempt to do something a little bit different. This film didn't really feel like it was making an attempt to do anything different.
Okay.
It felt like it was kind of selling out a bit. So yeah, Julianne Moore's character, she plays both Rose and Margaret. So she's like married to Matt Damon's character, and then she's also playing in the film her sister.
Okay, yeah.
And so Rose dies, so Margaret's left, and then he basically ends up almost immediately hooking up with Margaret, and you're just like, okay, so they're together, and they never really explain that dynamic because, again, spoilers here. So
they've already tuned out if they don't want to hear it. So
I
it's
like
okay.
saying it too much. I'm stuck in my head. Can't warn people too much these days about that. So it turns out Matt Damon was the one that's orchestrated this entire series of events to get her killed, paying some mobsters to show up at his house to get her killed, to collect insurance for reasons.
Weird.
Like they mentioned something about it because Rose is in a wheelchair and she kind of hates Matt Damon's character a little bit, but like you never really get an understanding of where that's motivated by. So it basically just makes it seem like, well, they have a slightly unhappy marriage, and so he paid to have her killed, and then starts hooking up with their sister. And so you're left with this kind of awful, like, these people are weird. And I thought Matt Damon was like going to be the good guy, that, all these bad people around him and horrible things are happening. And that's how it kind of starts. But then very quickly, and so because you never connected with Nicky, his son, really strong enough over the course of the film, you're left without a vehicle to really know who's my antagonist, who am I getting into these different events. And because the racist stuff, the racist aspects, the way that people are treating the black family, because you never connect with the black family, you feel bad for them, but you don't know how to connect with that.
Just like you wouldn't connect with any character.
So you're almost left feeling like there's no plot. Like there was a plot, things happened, there, A to B sequences, and A plot, B plot. That was pretty much it. It's like A and B plot. And I wish there'd been a bit more humor. Coens are good at that kind of stuff. The way that I believe that this happened was George Clooney and his other writer buddy got a hold of the Coen script and then made a bunch of changes. Right,
that's what it sounds like.
So it wasn't like they all sat down and like at a table and were like, hey, let's all write this together. It was like they wrote a script, and the script was actually very early on in the writing career. So it wasn't like
it's like an earlier script.
Yeah, it was like an early script in their career. And so it was kind of like, maybe that should have just been left seated where it was at. Right. So, and people are not responding very well. The satirical elements, and this is kind of the last point that I'll make.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of satire. Like I wrote a satire book that I'm publishing.
Yeah.
And I'm not amazing at it necessarily. Like I just really enjoy it.
Yeah.
When I see it, satire can be very... The amazing thing about satire is it can be very high brow in a sense, or it can be very low brow. It can be very slapstick. The portrayal of the satire is more of just making fun of an idea, a concept. And it's supposed to be, I believe, making fun of this time period in this culture. But it didn't really do that. There was nothing about it that really satired it. It just made it look like really bad people making really bad decisions.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't strong enough looking at and breaking down individual aspects of the culture that were being satired.
Yeah.
It was more just like, okay, well, this guy is unhappy. And so yeah, if the satire had been stronger, if the humor had been stronger, the cinematography was fine, the acting was fine. But if those two elements had been there, it would have elevated it much further along. Because of that, I'm giving this film a D-.
D-.
62.
All right, 62. Cool. Well, I won't be seeing it.
You sure?
Probably.
You don't think I'll check it out?
No.
No.
Man.
Yeah.
There's too much TV.
It wasn't a great film, a great weekend, I would say, for a film
Okay.
overall, but we have a big one coming up, so maybe that's kind of why they release some of these. We have Thor Ragnarok
I know, I'm so excited.
coming out. Yeah, I'm really excited for it too. But yeah, so that's it. So we're going to go ahead and wrap things up on the podcast then. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. A couple of ways to get connected again before we finish. RealReviewMedia.com is our website. We've also got our Facebook, which is facebook.com/RealReviewMedia. We've got Real Review Media on Twitter and Instagram, which are both at Real Review Media, as always spelled REEL. And then we'd love to hear your thoughts, your perspectives. Let us know, maybe what your favorite Jigsaw film is, your favorite
Saw film.
Saw
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 19, whatever one.
Yeah, maybe you saw Suburbicon, maybe you thought it was amazing. So, let us know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do that.
You can definitely drop us an email, which is realreviewmedia@gmail.com.
Do it.
There it is. So, Matt, anything further?
No, that's it.
All right. Well, then, it's been real.
It's been real.